How's it going, everyone? Mike the Warhost here, and today we're starting our look into the new Mythos factions added in the 2.0 update, starting with the Infernal Investigations. The Infernal Investigations Department of the Federated States Marshal Service is one of the main offensive forces for the Union in the Shadow War. This group of eccentric yet elite lawmen focus their efforts on various paranormal threats in the more untamed parts of the Union, as well as any corruption found within the nation's borders. If you want to learn more about the lore of the Infernal Investigations, you can find a brief overview currently available in the back of the new Mythos rulebook. A link will be provided in the description below. The Infernal Investigations box contains the following models, adding up to 100 points. Helena Miller, Jedrick Powell, Furio Montoya, Blackhoof 2020, Mercury Jones, and Ida Saxon. Helena Miller is your faction leader and will get an additional action point when activating. Helena is certainly quick on her feet with a base move of 9 and a charge of 11 to help her get into the fight as quickly as possible. She comes with both Tesla Stormthrowers with a combat value of 9 and an Iron Ass Baton with a combat value of 6, both of which can apply Paralyzed. Tactical Brilliance lets you spend 2 Mythos and an action point to allow another unit in your force to immediately take a single action during Helena's activation, and Eyes on the Prize lets you nominate a friendly unit to give them a +1 bonus for all test, attack, and defense rolls while they're either within 3 inches of an objective or carrying one, depending on the scenario. Fight or Flight gives Helena the option to back D6 inches away when being charged to avoid a fight at the cost of becoming fatigued, and Rocketeer lets her automatically pass any jumping or falling tests as well as ignore difficult terrain. When she flips to Altered, however, a lot of her mobility goes out the window. Her move and charge values drop significantly, and her combat defense, ranged defense, and sanity drop as well. Tactical Brilliance and Eyes on the Prize go away to be replaced by Ride the Lightning, which lets her take a pot shot at a second target if she causes at least 1 wound on her first. Fight or Flight gets replaced with Fight Not Flight, which gives her the option to take 2 wounds immediately in exchange for a +3 bonus to combat defense rolls when charged. Rocketeer also gets swapped out, this time for Desperate Times, which forces her to shoot at the closest enemy as soon as she activates. Jedrick Powell is an excellent mid-range finisher that can easily take advantage of enemies already softened by longer range fire. He comes with rail pistols that have a 10-inch range and the ability to inflict bleed, as well as the same Iron Ass Baton that Helena carries. Dual Wield lets Jedrick take a shot at a second target if he wounds his first with his pistols. Let's Get This Done lets him take a free move action before the first turn of the game. And You're Coming With Me lets Jedrick re-roll when making combat attacks against a paralyzed target. Jedrick's Altered side is more about offense and fanaticism. His defense stats as well as the combat value for the rail pistols decrease, but the combat value for his baton gets a slight bump. Dual Wield gets replaced with Smackdown, letting him re-roll attack dice when making a Mighty Blow attack. Let's Get This Done goes away in favor of Dead or Alive, Dead It Is, forcing Jedrick to only make combat attacks when engaged with an enemy model, and You're Coming With Me gets replaced with Through Passion I Gain Strength. This forces Jedrick to make a sanity test at the start of his activation. If he passes, nothing happens. If he fails, though, he gains both the Vigor and Burning conditions. The extra action point is nice, but any additional burn conditions will result in 2 automatic wounds, so be careful with this. Furio Montoya is your sole melee-focused unit in this faction and is great at breaking up clumps of enemies near objective. Her Sturginium Epis come with a base combat value of 9 and can apply Paralyzed. Dual Wield lets her swing again at a second target for free. Fencer lets her roll 3d6 when swinging and discard the lowest result. And Extravagant Flourish gives her an additional +1 to all attack rolls when she's within line of sight of a friendly unit. Breakaway lets her ignore disengaging strikes, and Riposte gives her the opportunity to inflict wounds on an attacker when in melee after they get their swings in. All of that elegance and grace goes right out the window when she flips to Altered, however. Her combat defense gets a slight bump at the cost of an arcane defense nerf. Her combat value for her soul weapon also gets a decrease down to 7. She loses almost all of her abilities and becomes a bit of a liability, to be honest. Let's Dance is just a renamed Fencer, fortunately, and Witness Me forces Furio to charge an enemy model if she's within line of sight of a friendly unit. What makes all this worse is that her madness threshold is only at 2, so be extra careful which fight you send her into. Blackhoof 2020 is one of your two sources of long-range fire in this faction and will take a lot of dedicated effort to fully bring him down. His hammer hands work just the same as everyone else's iron-ass batons, and his Hyper-V rifle has a 15-inch range and can apply bleed. Equine Charge lets you spend an action point to gain a whopping +4 bonus to move and charge actions. Steelhide lets you reduce incoming wounds by 1, and Ironheart makes him immune to fear. Machine Spirit lets you roll D3 to determine the number of available action points during his activation. Here's where things get a bit interesting. Galvanic Soul makes Blackhoof immune to paralyzed or bleed as well as gaining madness, but it also means he can't use Mythos at all, so any additional effects from his weapons can only come from a critical success. Damage Control Protocol forces Blackhoof to immediately flip his card to Altered, rather than using a Madness threshold. His Altered side doesn't really make a significant impact on his usefulness on the board. He still retains Steelhide, Machine Spirit, and Galvanic Soul, but loses Equine Charge and Ironheart. Instead, he gains Cold Indifference, which still provides the same fear immunity, but eliminates any bonuses you would get if he was engaged in combat alongside another Infernal Investigations unit. He also gains System Glitch, which kicks in right when he flips. Blackhoof will need to take an immediate sanity test with his new lower sanity value of 5. If he fails, he immediately gains Fatigue. And if this happens during his activation, Blackhoof loses 1 action point and can't clear it until his next activation. Mercury Jones is a bit of an odd duck. She has the same mid-range weapons as Helena and Jedrick, as well as the same low badness threshold as Furio. She comes with the near-ubiquitous Iron-Ass Baton, as well as a 10-inch Atom Pistol that can apply bleed. Sprint lets her gain a +2 bonus to move and charge actions during this activation, and Smoke Bomb gives soft cover to all units within 8 inches of her, provided they're not already in hard cover. Jet Boots let her ignore difficult terrain, as well as pass any jumping tests needed. Flipping over to Altered makes her a jittery little attack dog. She gets a +1 bonus to her move and charge values, but loses both Sprint and Smoke Bomb. Instead, she gains Acrophobia, which removes her ability to make jump tests or climb any terrain. Jet Boots still stay around, though the only effect they have is still letting her get through and ignore difficult terrain. Ida Saxon is your second source of long-range hate and discontent. Aside from the standard baton, she comes with an Eagle Claw rifle with a 15-inch range and the ability to apply bleed. Winged Scout lets her target an enemy unit so everyone else gets a +1 attack bonus against it that turn. And Owl's Guidance lets her extend her rifle's range out to 20 inches. Athena's Protection helps if someone gets too close by automatically inflicting 2 wounds on any enemy unit that charges her. Flipping to Altered results in a big hit against her combat effectiveness, however. Winged Scout and Owl's Guidance are gone, so no more buffs or extended ranges. Feather Distraction gives her a -1 penalty to all tests and attacks, and Paranoia gives an additional -1 penalty if she's not within 5 inches of another friendly unit. Low ammo also restricts her to making a single ranged attack per activation. Fortunately, her madness threshold is at 3, so she's not in much danger of flipping right away. Much like the Priory, positioning will be the key to using the Infernal Investigations faction. Keep both Blackhoof and Ida in the rear, taking pot shots at enemy targets, while Jedrick and Furio acting as screaming elements and potential objective holders. Helena and Mercury should be using their higher movement and terrain ignoring abilities to act as quick reaction forces to help deal with threats as they pop up. Well, that's going to do it for me today. Stay tuned for more Wild West Exodus, Mythos, Fog and Friction, and Dystopian Wars content in the near future, as well as some looks at Lost World Exodus in the not so near future. Maybe. At some point. Please. Take care, everyone.